Hi, everybody. As Hadi said, I am the co-creator, co-owner of the School of Visual Philosophy in San Jose, and that's where I am right now. So this is our print shop. We have lithography, screen printing, which I'll be demonstrating today, etching, monotype, all kinds of printmaking, woodcut. I'm actually teaching a laser woodcut class this weekend, incorporating that technology into traditional media. Which is really what we like to do, you know, expand the materials that artists can use. And then speaking of that, I myself like to experiment, and I have been playing around with electronics and circuits and lights. One of my pieces, a lot of my pieces now incorporate either light boxes or touch technology, touch triggered technology. Just getting the viewer more involved in the piece rather than just viewing it, but actually interacting with it. So I have a couple just examples of my work I can show, but feel free to go to my website. It's pretty easy, danaharrisseeger.com. And I have a whole bunch of new and old stuff up there. But this is an example of a print that started out as a screen print. And it has some intaglio etching, some acrylic painting, collage. So I'm very much a mixed media and layering artist. I don't just stick to one media and like make additions of prints. I really like to layer a lot of different stuff. Sometimes have a hard time reining myself in. I know many of you might feel the same way. But in any case, I will keep going on a piece until I feel like it's ready. These are cut square because I'm going to make them, actually turn them into little light boxes too. So they're going to be kind of like a series of little interactive light boxes. And let's see, this one has 3 different types of screen printing. It's got an emulsion screen print. It's got a paper stencil screen print, which I'm going to do today. And it's also got back here a reduction screen print. So there's a lot of...
Each screen print is done separately.
Yeah,
okay.
So with reduction, have you guys, I don't know if any of you are familiar with printmaking, but with like reduction, woodcut or lino cut or screen print, what you do is you start with the most general area, and then you start taking away the printable area, either by carving or by blocking out the screen. And so you go from light to dark, over printing and overprinting until you get a full color image. So a lot of what I do is very process oriented and laborious, but it's still, I really enjoy that process, and having a kind of a wealth of imagery to work with is something that I have been doing pretty much my whole career. I graduated from San Jose State in 2011 and started the School of Visual Philosophy with my husband, who's a sculptor, in 2013, and have just been doing that since, along with raising a family too. So I will do a little demonstration of the screen printing process. I'm on my phone, so forgive me, I can't see everybody, but if you have questions, we can, I'll come back, sit down, and we can talk about whatever you want after the demonstration. And then if you can't hear me for whatever reason, or I cut out, let me know too. Just kind of give a shout out, because I'll probably be zoning out doing my printing. Screen printing, or any printmaking method, you're making multiple copies. And I like to make copies, but not in the same, like not an edition. So not everyone the same. So they'll be in different kind of incarnations, different environments. So I have a stack of prints that I've got here in process that I'll just be over printing with the screen that I'm working with today. And we'll see where it goes.
Cool.
So this is my screen. And I've got my stencil positioned underneath the screen. And what I'm gonna do is flood the screen with ink, and then I'm going to lower it down, and the paper stencil will stick to that inky surface. And then I'll be able to use my squeegee and continue to pull prints. And where where the screen mesh is open, that's where the ink will be able to pass through. Because screen printing is basically just a stencil method. So you can use different types of stencils, paper, tape, screen filler, like waterproof paint, or photo emulsion. And of course, I teach all these at the school. So if you were interested in taking a class, since you're right around the corner, you can visit the school site, and we have these classes online. So online and in person. So there you go. So I'm using water-based ink because it's easy to clean up and it's not toxic to my system or the sink system, although it is acrylic based. So I don't, I'm assuming you guys know acrylic paint, so you don't want to put that down the sink because it will
Acrylic
harden, yeah, turn
ink?
plasticky.
Acrylic based ink?
Acrylic based ink, yeah.
Wow, first time I hear that. Okay.
So it's, we
Yeah.
call it ink because it's meant to be used on paper, but it's basically acrylic paint that is, has like a extender in it so that it can stay wet while I'm printing. Because, you know, acrylic dries pretty fast. And I want to be able to print multiple copies without the ink drying on my screen. So the screen ink has a particular extender in it. And I also put a little transparency in it to make the underlayers kind of show through. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm just going to spread the ink out on the top of my screen. And I want quite a bit because I want it to go all the way to the bottom. Right, and then I'm going to take my squeegee, which is basically just a wooden handle with a rubber blade on it that I'm going to squish the ink into the screen mesh with. And now that that's in the mesh, I can lower it down onto my stencil, which is also sitting on a piece of clear plastic. That way I'll be able to see where the screen is going to fall, and I can place my image accordingly on my paper accordingly. Now I'm going to push down, drag that, and then I'll bring the camera over to the side because you can see that the paper has stuck. Now you can see that the paper is stuck to the screen, and that way I have a stencil blocking out the areas that I don't want to print. So now I can put my paper. Now I can see exactly where the screen is going to fall because of the Mylar. And then I just keep printing until I'm done with either the ink is spent or I don't have any more prints to pull. And there we go. So that is what that screen created. So let's pull a few more.
What kind of paper are you using on the screen? Stick it to the screen. Stick it to the screen now.
This is just a newsprint that I cut shapes out of. This is like a Reeves BFK. So the paper I'm printing on is a thicker heavyweight paper, and the paper I'm using as a stencil is pretty thin.
So your shapes aren't cut out of the screen, they're cut out of the paper that's stuck to it.
Correct. That's correct. Yes. And so you can make any kind of you can make a variety of different stencils. For instance, this one is photo emulsion. So I took a photo of a projector and I created a transparent positive, which is kind of like a clear sheet with the image in black, and then exposed it to light. And that became the part of the screen that printed.
Did you cut the shape out by hand or there's something?
Yeah, I just cut the shape out with scissors.
I see.
But the other one, this photo one was a chemical process?
Yes, exactly. Yes, it was it's called photo emulsion, and it's a light sensitive coating that I put on the screen, let it dry, and then I exposed it to light, and wherever it had the black transparent image, that's where it left the screen, the emulsion kind of wet, if you will. So it was able to be washed out. And that I have like a dark room with an exposure light table to do all that. But I mean, for screen printing, all you really need is the screen and some other type of stencil, which could be tape. Again, it could be paper. Could be all kinds of different things.
So is it the same process if you wanted to do this, like I've seen people do screen print on shirts? Is it basically the same process?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's just you might use a slightly different type of ink, depending on your image or your, whether you're doing a whole bunch of them and multicolored. I might be able to get one more print. And this is just what it looks like, a plain old paper.
That one will just be the start of another project. The new one.
Oh, I have so many things going. You can, I mean, the cool thing about screen printing too is you can print on so many different things. You can print on fabric, you can print on wood, you can print on, I print on plexiglass, and then just depending on the type of ink you use, it'll stick, or not stick to different substrates. So it's very versatile type of printmaking. I really like how the transparent inks, you can make it either really opaque or really transparent and then kind of show through the underlayers.
So when you pick out a new image like the one you have now, did you have something specific in mind, and then how do you decide what else you want to use it on?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's often a give and take.
Process.
Yes, it's a process. I look at images and I think, oh, that needs a little more drawing, or that one needs more bold marks, or that one, needs more something to settle it down. It's too busy. Something needs more abstracted shape. Something needs more realism. Yeah, I definitely have my process of how I go about looking and then assessing and dividing into, like, this pile needs this and this pile needs that. And then I also I'm working on large scale and caustic paintings too. And those are always in rotation as well, because sometimes I draw on top of them, or I add collage, or I, add other colors. So yeah, it's definitely really a process.
And looks like you are a fan of fans.
I am. And all things that kind of rotate and go around and around and around. So I don't know how that one will end up. Maybe something like that.
Hmm.
Painting, I have a tendency to go overboard and then bring it back.
So usually, sorry, usually for one image, you already chose how many different paper you are going to print it on, right? So you do it in one.
Yes and no. I mean, something like this. Something like this I can always come back to because I have the image on the screen. So if I wanted to print this again on something else, I could. But for something like this paper one, yeah, it's like a temporary thing. So I would have to decide what I wanted, and then
So you
get
went
those
through
done.
whatever's in progress and said, yep, I want to add it to all these.
Yeah, and sometimes midway I'll have to change colors. Like I might switch colors. I have like a creamy color. I might add to that and kind of make a little transition. But because screen printing goes so fast, it's like the setup is the big thing, and then once you get that done, you kind of just like assembly line them all. So it's kind of a no-brainer to just do them all at once.
Mhm.
While I got them going.
Normally, how many layers can you do in one pen?
For one print, I don't know, like 12 maybe. Because they can have lithography, screen print, multiple screen printing. They could have painting, they could have drawing, they could have screen printing on top. And then if I add in like the light box element, then that's a whole other layer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna add or switch colors just to keep us going. Because I like this paper and I don't really want to lose that. So we'll see how it goes to transfer color. The first couple might be a little bit streaky.
There's still some of the old ink in there, so they're gonna mix.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna, they'll be kind of like it'll blend somehow.
Yeah.
It might be kind of streaky.
Oopsie daisy.
Oopsie daisy. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool though. So you can
Yeah.
see a little bit of the blending
Yeah.
as it gets.
If you don't want to blend, then do you have to clean the screen?
Yes. So for each color, each screen will just do one color. So in between colors, if I wanted to change to a completely different color or switch, I would have to clean it. Which is for paper, which is why I chose to just keep going, because with the paper stencil, I would have to, that would be the end of the stencil. Once you take the paper off, it's kind of done. There's that one. And that one's a little more opaque, so you can't see as much underneath.
Now I want to draw in the little spots.
I know. I know. And so even just sometimes the process will lead me to ideas about how I want to do it. What to do next. It's so much fun.
Are the earlier ones already dry?
What?
Are the
These
earlier
are
ones
already
already
dry.
dry?
Yeah. Yeah. So these were all printed, I don't know, while, a few weeks ago or so. There's the
Wow.
projector from that screen. So it's like a halftone photograph.
That's really detailed.
Yeah, you can get quite a bit of detail on the with screen printing with the photo emulsion. It's quite amazing. And this is a 4-color screen print of a windmill a picture of a windmill that I took in Tallinn, Estonia. And I turned it into a CMYK 4-color process print. So you print the yellow, and in Photoshop, I do all the, channel splitting and image manipulation. Print the yellow, then the magenta, then the cyan, then the black, and it turns into a full color. Like this.
It's like an old-fashioned printer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The reason I'm doing it twice is because I really want to get the edges of the paper, because there's that dimension of the paper. Sometimes it's not as crisp if I just do one pass. It also tends to kind of dry out the soonest or the quickest in that around the edges. This is one of those reduction woodcut or reduction screen prints I was talking about. So first I blocked out everywhere I wanted the white. I just used like a masking fluid on the screen and then printed the bluish color and the fade. And then I blocked out everything that I wanted to stay that background color, printed it in this sort of yellowish. So it's got all these layers until the black, the very last one. So you're printing a whole bunch, and then you're redoing the screen, and then you're printing a whole bunch, and then you're touching up the screen, and then you're printing a whole bunch. So it's quite time consuming.
And then you covered it up.
And then I covered it up. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I have this in so many different ones. Sometimes you gotta like.
I think if it was more transparent, it would be nice on this one.
Yeah.
oh, I like that one.
I've got more. Don't worry, there's more. Get to attack, right? Okay. I'll save this one for you.
There you go. Don't block it out.
I won't touch that. I'll do this one because this one didn't really turn out the way I wanted it to. This was a monotype, and then I screen printed a lace pattern over it, but it got kind of like I was talking about, too busy. So now it needs something to settle it down. Settle it down. We'll see if this does the trick. Who knows?
So this is an experiment.
This is an experiment. Quite know exactly how it's all going to turn out. Well, it's better. But the color that I printed is almost exactly the same color as the paper.
Yeah. Huh.
Maybe I'll outline it or something. Who knows? All right, I think, should I do some more? Do you guys want me to do some more? You want to ask some questions?
Maybe you show us all the other tools or
Sure, yeah.
things you have that you use for different methods of printing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You take the stencil off. And you can see how it just peels off. Peels right off the screen. Oh. Bye-bye. And then I just clean it in the sink with water. I'm gonna go throw this away and then I'll take you on a tour. So 1800s technology. This is what I did in graduate school a lot, lithography. So I have 3 litho presses, that one, and one over in the corner. And you can do stone, you can do plate. Let me see if I have an example over here. Let's see, I think, yeah. So this one, that the projector, that is a lithograph that I drew with, like, you know, the greasy pencils. And behind it, this pink, I painted that on another litho stone and printed it. It's a planographic process, so it's I don't know if you guys know what lithography is, but it's oil and water not mixing. So you have a surface and you draw on the surface. Traditionally, it's a stone, Bavarian limestone, and you draw on it with greasy pencils or greasy fluid. And that way the stone accepts that greasiness and wants to keep accepting the grease or the fat. And so you roll over it with oil-based ink, at the same time keeping the stone or the plate wet or damp, actually, thus repelling the ink in the areas that you haven't drawn on. So you can get really, it's just like drawing. So it looks like I drew it, but I can make multiple copies of it. So that's really cool. I like that a lot. And then I'll take you over to, this is our computer lab. So we have a laser and we have a full suite of Adobe and Corel Draw. And this is where I'm going to be doing the laser woodcut class. So we make wood blocks and then using kind of the same halftone method that you would for a screen print. And then carve those on the laser and then we print them just like a relief print. This is an etching press, so you can do monotype, you can do woodcut, you can do etchings, obviously, intaglio etchings on this guy. Over here is the letter press. Yeah.
When you say laser woodcut, you mean you cut a shape or a drawing with the laser?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me go grab one for you because I have an example. So this is a piece of wood that has been etched on the laser. So the beam of light, you know, heat and light just erased took off a layer, but in the areas where I told it to. So it's a mirror image of, although it's probably right reading to you guys, but it's supposed to be a mirror image of whatever you want to print. And then when you put the paper on, then it's right reading, then it prints correctly. So it's just like a woodcut, except you don't have to do all the carving. You just roll the ink on the surface and then print it, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
And then you can also, yeah, I know. And when people, when we started our shop, I had one little press and some screens and started teaching classes. And then people donated like these 2 presses, these letter presses. People donated to us a whole bunch of letterpress type, this etching press. So when they know that you collect stuff and you're a nonprofit, they like to give it to you. These are screen printing presses. So you can see all the squeegees up there. And this is a 4-color press. So it rotates and each one will drop down. They will have a screen on them. And then you could print 4 colors, you know, at the same time, or one after another, I guess, consecutively. 2 more little etching presses, and that's it. That's the grand tour. Let me Dana's studio. So those are my encaustic paintings I was telling you about. Let's see if I can go back here. So encaustic is wax. It's beeswax and Damar resin. And then I've painted oil. This is oil paint on top of it. And this is a screen printed sheer mesh that it's going to have a light, like a sort of digital thing behind it. And there's some more. These are all going to be for the Triton, the show I'm in at the Triton Museum in 2022. There's the wax that has to be melted down. There's some more. Tools of the trade. And that's pretty much it. Well, thank you guys. I hope you had fun, and please do visit the schoolofvisualphilosophy.com and DanaHarrisSeeger.com for lots more inspiration and